I mean, honestly, it's changed my life. I don't make like a ton of money with it, but just from TikTok alone last year, I was able to pay off medical bills. I was able to buy a brand new vehicle last year, pay for Christmas and stuff like that. So just the revenue I make just from TikTok alone has been life changing for me. When I started this in COVID, when I was in college, I had $500 to my name, and now I have a really nice collection of built up savings, bought a brand new vehicle, all that stuff. So, but overall, like, I mean, truthfully, TikTok has changed my life.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Thousand Card Project podcast. Super excited about this episode as well. I got Alex Biggs with us, Bigsy Rips on TikTok. Just again, for those that have been following, I'm relatively new to the TikTok space, and Alex was one of the first guys. We had Chris on, it was another one, but just somebody that is constantly putting out great content, doing a fantastic job of just kind of educating the space. And it was a guy that I felt like I needed to have on this podcast, man. So really, Alex, appreciate you being on here, and appreciate all the content and the way that you go about doing it.
I appreciate it. I appreciate you having me on, and I appreciate the support for sure.
We were talking a little bit off camera, but everybody kind of has this similar collector journey. They did it as kids, they got away from it, they got back into it, but at what point in your journey did you decide, hey, look, like this could be a little bit of a side business, or this could be like, I could make a little bit of money doing this? What point was that, and kind of what was the initial kind of strategy?
So for me, it kind of started off kind of like you said, everybody kind of has a similar journey. I grew up really collecting. I didn't so much collect sports cards when I was growing up. I collected a lot of Pokemon, and I collected a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh! And obviously, got out of it right around middle school, early high school. And then as I've gotten into my late 20s now, just turned 29 yesterday, I kind of got back into it. But basically what got it started for me was back during COVID. I don't know if you follow Darren Rovell on Twitter. I saw Darren Rovell had tweeted something back during COVID that a Blue Eyes White Dragon first edition Yu-Gi-Oh card had sold in a PSA 10 for like 5 figures or something like that. And I was like, I'm pretty sure I've got that card. I'm almost positive that I've got that card because I've been collecting Yu-Gi-Oh since it started, Yu-Gi-Oh and Pokemon both since it started. So looking around through my collection, I had three of the same card. The only problem was they looked like they had been in my pocket for the last 20 years. So the condition of them was pretty bad. Still ended up selling them for, halfway decent amount. Don't remember off the top of my head how much it ended up being, but sold those. And then one day I decided to go to Target, and I was like, I used to buy all my cards at Target. I'm going to just, look around and kind of see what they had. And at the time I had no idea that the COVID card market was what it was. I was like, I'm just going to go, buy some cards. Not really interested in buying Yu-Gi-Oh or Pokemon anymore, but might, buy some baseball cards or basketball cards. And at the time, 2020 Prism Football was out, and Hoops Premium Stock were the two sets that were out. I went, and it was Zion Williamson, John Morant rookie cards in the Hoops Premium Stock. And I bought just a couple blaster boxes because I wanted to pull one of those two guys. John Morant being a Murray State guy, being close to where I was, I thought that was pretty cool. And I liked watching Duke growing up, Duke basketball. So I wanted to pull those two guys, came back, and I just had happened to join a card group on Facebook. And I was like, hey, bought 2 boxes of Hoops Premium Stock. And within like 20 seconds of me making that post on Facebook, my DMs were flooded. And they were like, oh my God, I can't believe you bought Hoops Premium Stock at retail price or something like that. And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, what's going on? And I had a bunch of people like, hey, did they have any more? And I was like, yeah, they had a whole shelf full of them. And they were like, go back and buy every single box that they had. And I was like, okay. So the way I tell the story, at 4:00, I went and initially bought my 2 boxes. At 5:00, I went back and bought every single box that they had. And by 6:00, 6:30 that night, I had sold every single box that I had bought from Target, from Hoops Premium Stock. So I think I ended up spending like a little over $200 on 12, 13, 14 boxes. And I had sold it to somebody in Florida for like 700 or 800 bucks. And I'm in college at this point, and I've
Right.
like I think I had like $500 to my name at the time. So I spent half of what I had and then more than tripled it. So I was like, wow, that's kind of cool. I didn't realize that the card market was like that. And so I did that again like 3 or 4 more times, 4 or 5 weeks in a row until everybody else around my area started catching on, and then I couldn't find it anymore. But at the same time, when I was flipping the wax, I was also opening the wax, and I was like, oh wow, this is like addicting. And my dad grew up, and this is kind of separate off the wall, but my dad really used to collect quite a bit back during the early 80s, late 70s, early 80s, up into the 90s. And so whenever I was doing this, I was like, hey, like, let's pull your collection out and let's look and see what you got, see if anything's worth anything. And all his stuff was kind of like the same as my stuff. It all looked like it had been in his pocket for a long time, but he had a lot of stuff. But I mean, that's kind of where I got started in a sense of getting back into it, and then stopped flipping wax, and then was just like kind of goofing around on eBay a little bit, selling. I was basically just selling stuff that I had to help, either buy more wax or maybe buy a card that I wanted to keep for myself, and then started making TikToks about it. And then when I was making TikToks, it was more so, hey, I'm going to try to use TikTok as a marketing tool to get people to run over to my eBay.
Right.
And then it turned into me being a guy who was selling cards that was using social media to try to help him sell cards, to now it's turned more into I'm a social media guy who sells cards, which is kind of funny, but it's worked out pretty well at this point.
It's pretty crazy how those things happen, right? Just more or get the organic origin story of, you collected it, you win, you see the opportunity, you decide that you want to kind of just share it a little bit, and then that leads into the TikTok, following and,
Right.
and the things that you're doing there, which is incredible. You've been able to kind of capitalize on these opportunities that you've had throughout that process. What would you say is your 2 or 3 main strategies right now to kind of to make money with sports cards?
For me, if you're in it to like strictly make money, what I 100% don't recommend, unless you've got a set that you can buy at retail and flip, kind of like I was doing during COVID. With sports cards, you can't really do that right now. The Pokemon market, on the other hand, the Pokemon market's insane. The Pokemon market right now is the same as what the sports card market was during COVID. But if you're wanting to strictly, like, you're buying cards specifically to flip and make money, like, buying singles is the best way to do it. Because if you, like, I've said it in several of my videos before, like, if I've got $50 and I go buy a mega box of Top Series 1 or Topps Chrome or something like that, I might get 15, 20, $30 in return on that. On a good day, on a really good day, I hit something nice and it's like a $200, $300, $400 card. But it just doesn't happen that often, unless you're just ripping so much volume and stuff like that. Like all these big breakers that pull the big stuff, they're ripping volume all the time. You rip enough stuff, you're gonna run into something eventually. But I just don't. To me, it doesn't make sense to invest a bunch of money to maybe get something nice in return, when I can go to a show down in Nashville. I can go 45 minutes south and spend 3-4 hours at a show, and spend that same $50 at the value bins and get stuff for anywhere between 25 cents to $5, and turn that $50 into $100 or $200 or something like that, if you find something really nice that somebody just doesn't have marked correctly. So to me, it's a better investment to buy singles over buying boxes of cards. If you're wanting to strictly make money with it. What was the question? What was the rest of the question?
Yeah. So your strategies that you're, in your business right now when it comes to sports cards, what are the kind of the 3 main strategies that you're using to get a return? I mean, I think, again, and I want to preface it because I think we're all collectors at heart, right? I think everybody initially does this to either fund their own collection, or they have a passion for cards or something like that. But I don't, I've said it in this podcast a couple of times. Like I think there's as much of a hobby in the business side of it as well.
Right. Right.
I enjoy both, right? I have my PC, but I also enjoy the business side of it. And so, I know like you've gotten into Whatnot quite a bit,
Mhm.
and I agree with you what you said there, buying singles. I think like the one fortunate thing about my situation is that I've never been a ripper. I've always been somebody that buys singles. I just never really understood it, the allure of that, but I couldn't agree with you more there. But what are those, like when you say this is how I'm making money with sports cards right now? What are those systems?
So when I first started doing the TikTok stuff, it was this is what I'm doing. I'm listing everything. I don't necessarily list everything now because like there's going to be some base cards that are in like 2022 number 175 of some relief pitcher for the Brewers that I've never heard of. Like I'm not going to list that card, but originally when I first started making TikToks and stuff, I was listing everything because my goal was bulk volume, basically. I was trying to list as many things as I could, sell as many things as I could, so that would eventually add up. So, like, I follow a guy. I don't know if you follow him. His name is 1 Million Cubs. His name's
Yeah.
Bo.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
yeah.
I was trying to kind of go off of Bo's model where he had 50, 60,000 listings on eBay, and he's got stuff listed for 99 cents, $1.29, $1.50, stuff like that. But he's got so much stuff listed that, if he sells 200 cards in a day, he's made, after fees, 130, 140, 150 bucks selling dollar cards. So I was like, if I try to do the same thing and just kind of put the time into it and list it and grind it out, like that stuff does eventually add up. And a lot of people, I get a lot of pushback on it because they're like, it's not really worth the time. And to me, like it is, because I did a challenge a couple weeks ago where I called it base to bangers.
Yeah. I was
So
going to
yeah,
ask you about
yeah,
that.
if you
Yeah.
followed that. So I basically made it a challenge to myself. Like I'm only going to sell base cards to prove that one, base cards sell, two, the more you sell, the more it adds up, and three, like you can sell base cards to either, make a little extra cash on the side or to buy a card that you want. In my case, bought a card that I wanted, bought a $200 Bobby Witt black and white rookie card in a PSA 10, and it took me 3 weeks. They sit for a little while, but it took me 3 weeks. Sold $212 worth of cards. Ended up paying like $180 for the card because I made an offer on it on eBay. So I bought the card that I wanted, and I still was $40 in the green that I could use for a future show and go buy singles with. So,
Yeah. That's awesome.
but yeah, my original strategy was list as much stuff as I could and just see what sold. And then it, eventually worked out. You realize like, oh yeah, like this stuff does sell and makes you want to do it even more.
Is that evolution then? Because I think that's where a lot of people come in at, right? They have cards listed on their collection. They just want to get rid of them. They go list them on Collects or eBay or whatever. And, I think, then there's this kind of natural evolution into, grading or whatnot or
Mhm.
these different strategies. Is that what kind of led you towards the whatnot? And it seems like you've maybe gotten away from that a little bit even at this point, but what's that
I
natural evolution, you think?
So for me, it was trying to figure out how to word this. Like I still am doing the whatnot. The issue I run into right now is like where I have a full-time job and then I also have side jobs that I do. I get my time. I just don't have enough time. My time gets jumbled up. I would love, in a perfect world, if I got to do exactly what I wanted to do, I would be doing this full time with, I'd be making content every day. I'd be going for every single show that I could go to help source cards. And then I'd be running a whatnot show 1 or 2 times a week. And then stuff that doesn't sell on my whatnot shows, I'm going to list on Collects and let it sit there until it sells. That's a perfect world. But for me, with the business model that I run, because I sell predominantly cards that are less than $10, but I do it in bulk volume. That was the goal with the eBay stuff. And then I transitioned to Whatnot because it's a lot easier for me to move stuff on Whatnot. Doing the TikTok stuff, I got really comfortable being in front of a camera, and I got feedback from other people who were doing Whatnot who didn't have the same type of following that I had on social media, that were doing really well on Whatnot and moving a lot of stuff on Whatnot. So I was like, I'll try it. Not afraid to get in front of a camera. And then my first 2 Whatnot shows, I sold like 300 cards in the first 2 shows. So I moved over to Whatnot because I can just move more stuff that way. But then the issue I run into, because I have a full-time job and do all these other jobs on the side, it's hard for me to keep quality Whatnot inventory in stock. So the reason I haven't done a Whatnot show in a little over a month now is because I haven't had a chance to go to a show to source cards. And I can look on eBay and stuff and try to find cards on eBay. The problem with eBay, when it comes to sourcing quality whatnot inventory is everything. I got to buy everything either for comps or just a little bit below. And then if I'm buying for comps and selling for comps, then I'm losing money after fees and stuff like that. So it's easier for me to get quality inventory by going to a show and going through, dollar bins, quarter bins, stuff like that, and trying to find good value in those types of things. But yeah, when I get my free time back to me, I'll definitely be back into doing like more whatnot shows and stuff.
Do you think about, and I want to get into, your decision to go down the content route as well, but do you think somebody that is, wanting to make that natural evolution, but doesn't have the social media following,
Hmm.
you hear so many horror stories about people that are just getting crushed on whatnot in
Right.
their first 5, 6 shows or whatever. Do you think it's too diluted now with whatnot to really to jump in there and really have success, or would you be better off like with like a district or something like that that maybe doesn't have as much competition but still has live selling?
I don't know. That's actually a really good question. I don't think whatnot's necessarily diluted because they kind of have like a vetting process. You have to be approved to be a seller on there. So like, a lot of times if somebody jumps on there and they go 3 shows at a time and they don't do well, they stop doing it. And I don't really recommend you do that because, if you stick with it, like somebody's going to find you, somebody's going to like you, and they're going to like you and like your stuff and buy your stuff. So to me, like, I think whatnot's good. Just, what helped me is that I already had that following. So I feel like if I didn't have that following, like I would have started off slow as well. But again, I've seen people who don't have the following that I have start on whatnot and they do really well. They like do way better than I do. And they don't use social media at all. And they just get on there and they sell cards and they do really well with it. So I think the biggest thing is like sticking with it and hopefully that you get to that point where you can start like there's things that you can do on whatnot too to get people in your room. Like it sucks that a lot of people like you have to do giveaways and stuff to get people in your room and get people to follow you, but you take losses on those giveaways, but it does help get people into the room. So it takes two people bidding against each other for you to have an okay show. So to me, I think if you're really serious about it, you need to stick with it. Do some research on how to get more people into your rooms and kind of see what other people who are having success are doing and, even ask questions.
You mentioned that you're kind of staying mostly under $10 cards, but I think again everybody wants to kind of level up and
Mhm.
continue to grow into to higher value or make more money or whatever.
Mhm.
My personal contention is that I think you have to create those systems and have kind of a balanced portfolio, right? Like I think you need to stay with the under $10 cards because that's good cash flow and high margin. But then you turn around and you invest that into some higher dollar cards, whether that's
Yeah.
prospecting or Hall of Famers or whatever. But what do you think is the best strategy to kind of level up to get into some of the higher level cards?
So kind of like what you were saying is kind of the same thing that I do. I've got I've got probably just in sealed Pokemon wax right now, $1,000 worth of sealed Pokemon wax that I've just kind of been accumulating over the last couple of months when I can find it. At the National, I bought probably I can't remember off the top of my head how much I actually spent, but I think in singles alone I spent $400 or $500, but I spent $1,500 in total. So I bought a Mike Trout rookie card that I've been wanting for a long time. I bought two Derek Jeter SP foils that I paid $115, $120 a piece for. Bought a nice Julio Rodriguez rookie auto. But yeah, I kind of agree with what you're saying is you need to have a little bit of a portfolio. Like for me with the bigger cards, I kind of, just sit on them for a little bit and don't really move them unless I need to or unless I can get something for a really nice price. Like during the National, I bought a Ronald Acuna PSA 10 rookie auto. It was an on-card auto. It wasn't like you can't pull the card out of the pack and it being auto. Like somebody took a base card, went to Ronald and he signed it and then he got it graded in his PSA 10. But they had it listed for at the show for $100. And I was like, that feels low. And I didn't even look up comps on it at the time. I was like, that feels low. I'm gonna buy it. And if it's worth $100. I'll just keep it because I like Ronald Acuna. But then I looked it up, and the same card, like same type of card, somebody took a base card, got it signed, got it graded, was going for like $180. So I was like, okay, like it's going for $180 right now. I'll sell it on eBay, take my $60 after fees and, move forward with it. But then other stuff, like I've got my Topps black and white PC that I'll probably never sell up here, but I've got a Shohei Ohtani up here that's worth probably $400 right now. The Bobby Witt I paid $184 last week. I've got a Soto, an Acuna rookie, a Julio rookie, Adley, Corbin Carroll up here. So I've got a bunch of stuff in my black and white PC that holds pretty good value right now too. So, but yeah, I agree. Having a good source of bulk inventory and a good source of those 100, 200, 300, $400 cards is a nice portfolio to have.
Yeah. What's a strategy that you haven't really tried that you've been thinking about trying that you think that you might have success with kind of in this space?
Am very conservative. Like I'm super, super conservative. Like I, for the most part, stick with the $10 or less cards because like that's my bread and butter and that's what I know best. But at the same time, buying those $100 to $400 cards at the show at the National, that was really the first time that I really like went out of my comfort zone to buy the more expensive cards. I've sold up to this point, I've sold all of the cards except for one of the Jeters, and then I still have the Trout rookie that I don't know if I'll ever sell it because that was kind of one of my grail cards that I wanted to buy. I wanted a PSA 10. I ended up getting a BGS 9.5. And it's actually I could have sold it. I got an offer. I bought it for $400. I got an offer for $550 on it on eBay like 2 days after I bought it. And I was like, no, he was 2 home runs away from 400 at the time. So I was like, if he hits 400 here in the next couple of days, it might jump up to 6 or something like that. Didn't take the offer, and then it took him 2 months to hit 2 more home runs. So now I think I might be able to get my money back for it if I tried to sell it locally, but I'm not going to list it right now. If I listed it right now, I'd probably lose on it. Again, it was a card that I wanted, but that was kind of the first time I went out of my comfort zone to buy some more expensive cards, and all the other cards that I bought, I sold and I did well with them. So I got the Acuna, I got one of the Jeters sold, I had the Julio sold, and so I think grand total on all 4 or 5 of those cards, I think I spent probably $800 on all 5 of those cards. And the ones that I have sold, I think I've got $600 or $700 in return, and then I've still got the Jeter and the Trout. So like if I sell the Jeter and the Trout, like I'm gonna make a nice return on it. But I'm very very conservative and try to stick with what I know. I feel like if I tried to buy more bigger cards that I would do okay with it. It's just I don't like having that capital tied up into 1 or 2 cards that I might make $20 or $30 on versus 40 cards that I could make the same return on and move a lot quicker.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I wouldn't say I'm necessarily conservative, but I like refining the process before I move to the next thing. And one of those strategies that you just mentioned is something that I've been playing around with, which is the doing the PSA DNA, slabs of kind of Hall of Fame players, because they just don't have that many autographs.
Yeah.
I think that's a kind of an interesting strategy, but that point of getting out of your comfort zone, I think, is the critical piece, right? I think everybody has to grow in that way. And one of those ways that you probably did that early on that's probably natural to you now is going into the social media space.
Yeah, exactly.
That's something that not a lot of people find, there's a lot of people that don't want any part of a camera. They don't want to be, but you made a conscious decision to not only kind of document your own process, but then also help others along the way. What has that done for you just personally and then with your card business?
I mean, honestly, it's changed my life. I mean, truthfully, the TikTok specifically has changed my life. I don't make like a ton of money with it, but just from TikTok alone last year, I was able to pay off medical bills. I was able to I purchased a brand new vehicle last year. It's not under the business because I run as an individual, but like paid off medical bills, bought a brand new vehicle, paid for Christmas and stuff like that. So just the revenue I make just from TikTok alone has been life changing for me. I've been able to build up a savings account that I didn't have before. Because like I said, when I started this in COVID, when I was in college, I had $500 to my name, and now I have a really nice collection. I've built up savings, bought a brand new vehicle, all that stuff. So, but overall, like, I mean, truthfully, TikTok has changed my life.
What would you say, for the person that is struggling, like, again, there's a guy like, like me, like the goal is never really to be that kind of influence or whatever on TikTok. But at the same time, I do think, just documenting your journey, it's good to be able to look back on
Hmm.
and see how far you've come, or and I think that naturally leads to other people that are maybe a few steps behind you
Hmm.
learning from you in that process. What advice do you have to somebody that intentionally wants to build that following, that wants to build kind of a TikTok
So
card
that that
business?
yeah, that like how you mentioned it is basically how it started for me. Is I didn't go into making TikToks with the intention of becoming a micro influencer and you know trying to monetize my social media platforms. It was literally like when I started it, it was I'm selling cards on eBay. This is what I've got for sale. My eBay is in my bio. Like you can go buy cards from me in my bio. And then um I grew like the first week. It was like 1,000. I grew like 1,000 followers in the first week because people just, I guess they just liked me. But people would go buy cards. They would talk to me. They'd be like, "Hey, what do you want for?" We would kind of make like eBay deals off like in the DMs of my TikTok because you can't really do that on eBay. But they'd be like, "Hey, you've got this for this. Would you take this?" And I'd be like, "Yeah, that'd be fine. We'd be cool with that." And then I built up a little bit of a following that way, and then I realized like I kind of liked making the videos, like it was just fun. And then I started making videos more for fun. Like I would still promote the eBay store, but then I would start making videos for fun. Grew a little bit more, started doing giveaways, grew a lot doing giveaways. I would do like a Friday freebie and I'd be like, if you want to win this Ronald Acuna rookie card, like and follow. And then that got me up to about 5,000. And then and then after that, I took a little bit of a break because I had my first kid, well, only kid. But took a break after that. Was kind of stuck at 5K for a little while, and then when it really blew up was when like I started. I joined a Discord group that was that basically taught you how to not necessarily how to go viral, but how to make like quality videos, basically. And so I started taking strategies from that Discord group and then utilizing them into mine. And I kind of came up with the idea like I had a New Year's resolution 2 years ago, I guess. I was like, I'm going to start taking eBay a lot more seriously, utilizing the same strategies that Bo used for a million Cubs. And then, like, this is what I'm doing. This is how I'm going to do it. I'm going to document everything. So, like, I wasn't ever being like, I'm an eBay expert, like far from it. I still learning eBay, but it was like, this is what I'm doing. This is how I'm doing it. I'm documenting it this way. If you want to follow along and see how well I'm doing, like follow along. And then that's when it blew up. That's kind of where it was. So like I was still doing everything for fun. And then all of a sudden that one little like content idea is what kind of took it to where it's at now.
Yeah, I think one thing that you've done really well, to me, from the outside looking in, is that you've created these little kind of series within
Uh-huh.
your content, like the base to bangers. Like that's something
Hmm.
that, is it's relatable. It's something that everybody can do, that, they want to root for you in that process. Or you deal with your fair share of haters when you do stuff like that as well. And I know you address some of that as well. What would you say is the best way, or how do you approach that when people are maybe, commenting negatively or those types of things?
Well, for me, not to like sound cocky or greedy or anything, but like hate comments are easy for me to reply to because I can get paid for the videos when I make a response to them. So like if the ones I do the responses to are the ones that are just like they're dumb comments. And I can get on there and I can be like, this is a dumb comment. This is why this is a dumb comment. And then do that explanation. So those are the ones I reply to. I do get some where they're like, that guy's got a point. He got me there. I don't reply to those ones, but and then I've got some where it's like it's somebody who clearly doesn't know what they're talking about. I explain to them that why they don't know what they're talking about, and then they're still like they're blinded by the logic of it, and then at that point there's no point arguing with somebody who doesn't realize the error of their ways, I guess. But so I'll try to ignore those ones and get them out of the way. But a lot of people say if you don't get hate, or if you get hate, you're doing something right. Basically, is what they say. So
Yeah, I think obviously being in the coaching world, and you and I've got that connection through athletics, and you're used to that, right? It's kind of fun in some ways, but like to your point, any kind of engagement is good engagement when
yeah,
when
for,
that's
for the most part, as long as you're not in some type of like just scandal.
yeah,
Uh,
that's right.
for the most part, it's
Well, you mentioned obviously having a young child, you got a wife, you got multiple jobs, and then you've got this content and card business. Like, how do you balance staying consistent with your content, with your sports cards, with all the other responsibilities?
it's hard. It's truthfully, it's really hard. I'm going through it right now with the struggle bus from the card aspect of it. I try to post a video every single day. That is the number one goal, is to get a video every single day. Even if I'm not doing anything with cards, get a video out every day. Because at this point, like I said earlier, it turned in from me being a guy that sells cards and makes videos to me being a guy who makes videos and sells cards. Yeah. So for me, the content is first priority. And then when I can get to the card stuff, like I want to get to the card stuff, that's what leads into it. So with the replay stuff that I'm doing right now, I'm doing like this coming week, I've got a football game on Tuesday, and then I've got 2 more volleyball games during the weekend. The volleyball games specifically on the weekend, and football games too. Saturdays are usually when I go and source cards. Well, if I've got a football or a volleyball game on a Saturday, on a show day, I'm out of luck on the card stuff. So that's the reason why I've been so slow with the actual card stuff. But again, once the football, volleyball season slows down, I'll go into basketball too. But basketball is one sport versus having to do 2 sports at the time right now. So hopefully I'll be able to get back into it more. So in like really, really get back into it like at the start of December going into January. Because I'd like to get some more card stuff out during Q4, because Q4 is a great time for sellers.
Yeah.
It's just getting my foot into the door at a show so I can buy some cards.
Brings up a good question. I mean, when if you're someone that's not near, like when I was in Alabama, like there wasn't very many card shows, or I couldn't get to them, or you got somebody that's very busy or works on the weekends or whatever. What are some of the best sources that you found to buy, those cards, but also being mindful of like you said, if you buy it at comps, you're trying to sell it at comp. If you set a low comp, now you're competing against that a little bit.
So what I do when I can't get into a show is I'll dabble around Whatnot shows, and if I'm looking for something specifically, I'll search that category in Whatnot, and then I'll filter the shows, and I'll go to the person that has the least amount of people in their room. And a lot of people have called me out for it, being like, "Oh, that's scheming," because like I'll go in there and I'll buy $5 cards for $1 because there's nobody else in the room. And they'll be like, "Oh, you're taking advantage of the seller." And to me, it's more like, if I'm not in the room, who buys the card, right? So if nobody else is in the room, they're not making any sales. So would they, you can't speak for the seller, obviously, but it's like, would they rather me come in there and buy, spend $50 in their show on 40 or 50 cards, or would they rather have 1 or 2 people in their show that don't buy anything, and then they're out of it. So like, to me, it's a win-win, especially for the new sellers on Whatnot, because it like, even though they're not making what they want to make on those cards, they're still making sales. And I try to leave feedback on all of the purchases that I make, so that way their account can grow and they can eventually get to the point where they're getting what they want for those cards. But that's kind of how I buy a lot of singles when I can't make it to shows themselves. Collects is also a really good platform, because there's just not as many eyeballs on there as there is on eBay. And a lot of times somebody will have something like mislabeled or something like that. Like, I'll look up a 93 Topps Derek Jeter, and somebody's got a 93 Topps Derek Jeter listed on there. They've got it listed as a 93 Topps Derek Jeter, but then you look at the picture and it's a Topps Gold.
Right.
So it goes from a $3 card to a $15, $20 card. and then you try to snatch those up. I bought something from somebody the other day and made a video on it. It was this card right here. It was this on-card autograph of Ozzie Smith. And I actually had bought like 10 or 15 cards from this guy that had all these cards listed, but he had this listed for like $10. And I was like, that's an on-card auto of Ozzie Smith. He's got it listed for $10. And I was like, I'll pay $10 for that. Like, I won't even look up the comps for it. It's an on-card auto of Ozzie Smith. Looked it up. 60, 70, $80 card comp on eBay. So I was like, goodbye. But you can like kind of dabble through collects and find other deals like that as well too. I don't know if you follow Ball Card Genius.
Yeah.
That's like his bread and butter. Like, he tries to find like good value stuff on collects or on another platform to then flip on eBay. Like, I love his content. His stuff's really good.
I agree. Yeah. I think there's a handful of things there. I actually just did this 2 nights ago. I think, it kind of came from a little bit of inspiration from you where, really kind of started, probably about a year ago with the business side of this, and when I did that, I went and bought, a Topps Chrome Mega, a Bowman Chrome Mega. And I think I've bought maybe a Bowman U Mega, are the only boxes that I've really ever bought. And so I was like, well, they're coming back out. Maybe I should just go buy a box just because it's kind of this, just to kind of keep that, kind of trend or whatever. Instead, I did exactly what you said. I just went on collects and I couldn't find a Mega at Topps Chrome at Walmart. So I went and spent $50 on collects and finding 2025 Topps Chrome.
Yeah.
And got away, with probably what would be hits in a lot of those packs, right? And so I agree with you, man. I think it's great that way. Where do you see kind of, the next year or two with the business? Obviously, you got all kinds of things going on with, Topps or Fanatics getting the licensing and all that. What's the focus for you in the next year or two here with the card business?
Kind of scaling a little bit. So I started doing, I can't remember the exact month I started doing whatnot, but it was like April. And obviously I've had a lot of success doing that. Problem again I run into is not having enough inventory to be able to run shows consistently like I want to. So I'm going to try to make it a real emphasis to going to as many in-person shows as I can so I can, just source. Like, that's the biggest thing. I just want to source. Went to the National for the first time this year with my dad. Had a great time talking about we want to do it again this year. Wanted to go to Fanatics Fest, but then Fanatics Fest was scheduled the week before the National this year or this coming year. So not going to be able to do both of those. And plus also, I think World Cup's in New York City this year or something like that. So that's
They're gonna be priced out of that one.
yeah, probably going to be priced out of that one, but just continuing to go to as many shows as I can, source as many cards as I can, meet as many people as I can, and kind of network a little bit more is kind of what I'm looking at this year. Trying to make more content. The TikTok's still kind of up in the air with the government. They act like it's going to be saved. That's kind of a big deal for me. If TikTok goes away, that kind of takes away a majority of my stuff. So I've still kind of been keeping my eyes on that. My goal this year was to try to go full time, and then ever since that went up in the air, I've kind of had to just pay attention to it.
Are you hedging that at all, or are you starting up with any other social platforms?
So yes, I've never made a video on this because anytime you like try to promote another platform, TikTok really suppresses those views. I pay for a software called repurpose.io, and for people who don't know what it is, repurpose.io, you can connect all of your social media accounts. And so like on mine, I have TikTok and YouTube and Instagram connected. So the way I've got it, the way you can work it is you can connect your TikTok account and then link it to your YouTube or your Instagram or your Facebook or something like that. And anytime that I make a video on TikTok, the software automatically repurposes and reposts the same video to YouTube or Instagram or Facebook. So I'm trying to grow my YouTube right now. It's under the same name, Bigsy Rips. But it's literally it's taking my TikTok videos and posting them onto YouTube, so I don't have to do it. I pay, I think, $30 a month for it, and to me, it's 100% worth it because it's posting anywhere between 30 and 50 videos that I don't have to do any extra work.
Yeah, yeah. I use a software called Buffer. It does the exact same thing, but
Yeah.
my focus is the opposite, is to focus on YouTube and then push to TikTok and Instagram.
Yeah, YouTube is where I would like where I would like to be. TikTok, I mean, obviously TikTok's been really good for me, but if I can get both of them, if TikTok gets saved and then I can grow on the YouTube as well and be able to double dip that's going to be a huge step in, ultimately making the goal to go full time. That's
Yeah, for
that's
sure.
the ultimate goal, is going full time.
Well, I know there's a lot of people that appreciate what you do, myself included. And if you're not following at Bigsy Rips on TikTok, I would highly recommend it. He does a phenomenal job, and obviously is so giving with his knowledge and his efforts. And so, man, I appreciate you being on this show and sharing, and really enjoyed talking to you.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I appreciate you having me on.